when you want to find specific values in an inverse variation problem, you can solve for k and use substitution, or you can look at what we got below here. I'll show you kind of how this formula is derived here. After we take a look at this example, you'll see it. The time t that it takes for a group of volunteers to construct a house varies inversely as the number of volunteers v. So that's this first formula. This t equals k over v. If 20 volunteers can build a house in 62.5 working hours, how many volunteers would be needed to build a house in 50 working hours? So if we were looking for this first one, if we were solving for k by itself, for the first group of people building this house, we would multiply by v. So t times v would equal k. Now, if we were to do the same problem for the second group of people, which we could call like t sub 2 equals k sub 2 over v sub 2, right? And we said, oh, well, let's get k by itself here. You would multiply by v squared, so it'd be t sub 2 times v sub 2 equals that constant of variation. Now, they're both equal to the same constant of variation, so then in theory, we would be able to set t times v of one set of people equal to t times v of the other set of people. So that's what that formula up there means. Of course, they overcomplicate it, and I don't know how to simplify it any more than I just said. So let's just check it out this way. So first, let's find k. The first group of people built the house. Their time was 62.5 hours. We're looking for k, and that was with 20 volunteers. So if we are solving for that constant of variation, we could multiply by 20 on both sides, which would give us 1,250. That's the number of labor hours we need total to build this house. So then we can substitute that back in here. Let's see, t equals 1,250 over the volunteers. So you're dividing the 1,250 hours by however many volunteers you have. How many volunteers would be needed to build a house in 50 working hours? So we're looking for 50 hours. 1,250 divided by our volunteers equals 50. So we can multiply by v on both sides, which would give us 50v equals 1,250. Go ahead and divide both sides by 50. Oh. And we get 25 volunteers. Sweet. That's not bad. The other formula that they were talking about up there is the time times the volunteer hours. The time times the volunteers of one set will equal the time times the volunteers of the other set. So they said, oh, well, if you have 62.5 working hours times the 20 volunteers, that'll get your house done. And then the other set was like, oh, well, how about if you only had 50 hours, how many volunteers would you need? Great question. So we multiply these, we get our 1,250 equals our 50 times our number of volunteers. We divide by 50, and you end up with the exact same answer. You get 25 volunteers. Two ways to do the same problem. Choose your adventure. They're both so much fun. It's going to be hard to pick.